All right, we're going to get started now, and if anyone joins late, they can catch up. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the second webinar of the International Coastal Cleanup Series. For those of you that attended our first one, we've got tons of new information for you. And for those of you that are attending your first webinar of the series, don't worry, the webinars are designed for people to attend one or all, and you can review recording on OceanWise's YouTube channel. My name is Angela, and I'm a specialist for the Shoreline Cleanup program. Today, I'll be discussing how we track pollution with shoreline cleanups with a focus on cigarette butts and microplastics. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat area or the question and answer area. We've got a question in there already for you to drop in where you're joining us from. I'm joining us from the Halifax area. We have colleagues from across the country, so it would be great to hear where you all are. We also have my colleague Stephanie from our pollution tracker team that's here to answer any questions on pollutants as we dive deeper into that topic. In the last webinar, we had everyone picture their favorite memory by the water. This time, I want you to picture a memory that made you want to take action. For me, it was a trip to Curacao, where we were participating in a beach cleanup on the North Shore in a national park. The area was uninhabited, and yet the beach was full of trash. I know it's a little bit difficult to see in this picture, but upon first glance, the beach was beautiful and pristine. But when we looked closer, there was litter everywhere. Most of it was washing up from other islands due to currents, and yet it was the responsibility of the Curacao National Park to keep it clean. It was on that trip that I found out I had been offered a position to start my journey with OceanWise on our shoreline cleanup team to tackle plastic pollution in Canada. OceanWise is a globally focused conservation organization on a mission to restore and protect our ocean. We do this through research, education, public engagement, and international collaborations, where we empower communities to fight three major ocean challenges. These are ocean pollution, overfishing, and climate change. The reason we're doing this, because we need the ocean and the ocean needs us. On the ground, we're practically doing this through several initiatives at OceanWise, tackling those three challenges that I mentioned. You can see a few of them on the right-hand side here. We have seaforestation, which is restoring and building kelp forests. We have fisheries and seafoods. This might have been a program you've heard of before, where you see this logo on different seafood products that you might buy at your local supermarket. Our whales initiative, as well as youth and education. The last one not seen here is plastics, which we'll dive into a little bit deeper. Our Ocean Pollution and Plastics Initiative has 4 pillars. The first one, the Shoreline Cleanup Program, which I'm a part of, provides volunteers the opportunity to take action in their own communities by collecting litter from their local green and blue spaces. The Plastics Lab conducts solutions-oriented research into microplastics with a particular focus on microfibers and microplastics from textiles. Our pollution tracker team is documenting the levels and trends of hundreds of contaminants of concern in mussel and nearshore ocean sediments in British Columbia and Canada. And our plastic reduction program works with businesses and individuals to take a deep dive into their plastic consumption behaviors and make goals to make changes in it. All of our programs generate valuable data that have and continue to inform government policy and business practices. Within the Shoreline Cleanup Program, we collect valuable litter data on the type and quantity of items collected during cleanup events. What you're seeing on this slide is our data card that can be accessed on a mobile device or a laptop, and we collect information on several different categories. The first is single-use food and beverage. So this is our coffee cups and lids, utensils, straws, for example. Personal hygiene, which includes masks, diapers, tampons. Anything fishing related, so this can be nets and lines. In our smoking related category, we have cigarette butts. And the last one is our tiny trash. These are items that are less than 2.5 centimeters, such as plastic or styrofoam pieces. When volunteers participate in a cleanup, they're doing a great job of removing litter from the shoreline, but they're also contributing this type of data to our 30 years database. Today's hot topic focuses on these two categories here, the tinier items we find on shorelines. Like I said, data within the Ocean Pollution and Plastics Initiative has been used to support many policy initiatives and other types of projects. Shoreline cleanup data has been shared to support policy. For example, at the municipal level within the City of Vancouver, our data was used to inform the single-use item reduction strategy, which aimed to reduce plastic and paper bags, expanded polystyrene foam takeout containers and cups, disposable hot and cold drink cups, takeout food containers, and single-use straws and utensils. Our data can also be used to support research projects at all levels. For example, a study on the incorporation of anthropogenic debris into double-crested cormorant nests in Toronto compared shoreline cleanup litter data found at a nearby site with the litter found in nests of these birds. Since these birds are an indicator species to track human litter debris in inland aquatic areas, this work can be really powerful in informing a need to conserve and protect important ecosystems. Next week, we'll be sharing a brand new blog highlighting many of the ways our data has been used to inform policy and research, so stay tuned. Another way that our data has been used is one you might recognize. This is our Dirty Dozen. We've used this to inform governments, research, and the public. It essentially highlights the most common item found on shorelines. This year, we had a really great piece of good news. Straws left our Dirty Dozen list after nearly a decade. It's still early to tell if this is because we're finding more of other items or if we're truly seeing a decrease in straws. So continue to watch our website and social channels for more information as our team dives deeper into this finding. If you look at the top items here, you'll notice cigarette butts and plastic pieces top our list. Cigarette butts make up nearly 1/3 of our total shoreline cleanup litter data that we find every year. I wanted to highlight these two items because one, of course, they're our most commonly found items, so they are definitely problematic. But two, I often arrive at shoreline cleanups and participants remark at how clean the area appears to be. During these cleanups, we still tend to find sometimes upwards of 60 kilograms of trash. So just because an area looks clean doesn't mean it is. That cleanup I did in Curacao, for example, we found so many pieces of plastic pieces that were breaking down from larger items. So today we'll dive into the problem with these little items, the cigarette butts and plastic pieces that we see on shorelines, and how you can take action in your community. So firstly, cigarette butts. From beaches to waterways to parks to roadsides, cigarette butts are everywhere. 33% of our litter data is from cigarette butts. That's a lot every single year. Here's the scoop on the harmful ways that cigarette butts impact our environment. Firstly, they leach harmful chemicals such as lead and arsenic that contaminate waterways and harm animals. Although many people think butts break down naturally in the environment, many cigarette butts, about 98%, are made of plastic, specifically cellulose acetate, that are tightly packed together so they aren't breaking down. I mentioned that cigarette butts leach arsenic and lead, which are chemical pollutants. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into what chemical pollutants are. Pollution comes in many forms. This can be plastic, biological to chemical. Typically invisible, we don't really think of chemicals on a daily basis. In the ocean, the fate and effects of most human-made chemicals are unknown or not well understood, and we really only think of chemical pollution when a spill occurs or a health crisis comes to light. There are an estimated 40 to 60,000 industrial chemicals in use globally, and new ones are being made every single year. Large amounts of these chemicals are released into the air, soil, and water, and they reach the ocean both directly and indirectly through intentional releases, spills, runoff, and deposition from the atmosphere, as you can see in this image. It's estimated that more than 80% of global municipal and industrial wastewater is released to the environment without adequate treatment. Chemicals produced or used in one region of the world can also be transported to other regions through atmospheric and ocean currents, and this even happens to remote regions such as the Arctic. Many of these pollutants are persistent and bioaccumulative. This means that they can transport long distances, but they can also exist in the environment for extended periods of time, and they magnify their way in concentration up the food chain. As you can see here, this makes them particularly hazardous to some of the amazing creatures we know and love, like killer whales. This is where our pollution tracker team comes in. Pollution Tracker is a monitoring program for coastal British Columbia, and it's helping us answer the question, how polluted is our ocean? Our team documents the levels and trends of hundreds of contaminants of concern in mussels and near-shore ocean sediments. This includes lead, mercury, pesticides, and so much more. This program enables actions that stem the release of harmful substances by using high-quality data. You can learn more about this program by visiting pollutiontracker.org. It's really interesting. You can explore the map of coastal BC by clicking on some of these sample locations. You can see how it ranks compared to other sample sites and explore the level of each chemical sampled. Here's where you can see the ranking, and here's where you can see the particular chemicals. If you click on a particular chemical, you can see how all sites measured for this particular contaminant compare and explore more information on why it's a problem, what's being done, and how you can help. For example, for lead, which is often leached into the environment from cigarette butts, you can view this tip on some ways that you can help. If you go back to the map, you can see the second phase of sampling and explore other areas by clicking on the marker or moving the map with your cursor. Our pollution tracker team is going to be back out in the field this fall to continue sampling, so keep an eye out for updates closer to November. The other tiny trash item I want to talk about today is microplastics. Microplastics are defined as plastic particles smaller than 5 millimeters in size. They're considered structural pollutants that do not readily biodegrade, and they're highly persistent in the marine environment. There's two different types. The first are primary microplastics that are manufactured to be small. This is typically in industrial purposes, which we call nurdles, or in cosmetic and pharmaceutical applications, which you might have seen before in face washes like microbeads. Secondary microplastics, however, are the result from larger plastic products breaking down. We see this a lot on beaches from sun and waves breaking items down, but it can also come from laundry, which produces microplastics when synthetic clothing sheds tiny fibers that we call microfibers. Land-based sources are believed to contribute to the largest proportion of them, and microplastics have been found in all parts of the world, including remote locations such as the Arctic Sea. Since we see microplastics everywhere, they're pretty prominent. We need to look at some of the impacts that these microplastics and microfibers have on organisms. Our plastics lab continues to look at these impacts and sources. Most recently, we published a study that shows how microfibers can make their way up the food chain because they are being eaten by zooplankton, little tiny organisms who think it's food, and then those zooplankton are consumed by larger organisms where it magnifies up. A big source of microfiber pollution is from our clothing being washed. So one easy thing that we can all do to reduce these fibers is setting our washing machines to cold and gentle cycles. This can reduce microfiber shedding by up to 70%. I love this tip because it doesn't involve us going out to buy new products. It doesn't involve a major change. It's one small thing that we can all do at home to make a big difference. OceanWise is also now working with the National Research Council of Canada to identify hotspots of concerns using microplastic modeling. If we look here, the colors represent the depth. So red are microplastics found at the surface, and as we go into different colors, blue is found deeper and deeper. We're hoping to develop these tools that can easily be used for decision makers to reduce microplastic pollution. You can see in this graph graphic how easily rivers and waterways are transporting microplastics into our ocean. The good news, though, is that shoreline cleanups can help prevent the spread of microplastics into waterways. A study from experts from Norse, which is one of Norway's largest research organizations, found that within a year of volunteers removing bottles, bags, and other large pieces of plastics from the shore of an island, the amount of microplastic on land and in the water fell by over 99%. This is a really great way to show that the impact of shoreline cleanups can have on different things like microplastics. That brings us to our next section of how you can get involved to take action to protect our ocean. First, I want to talk about stopping the spread of chemical pollutants, such as those found in cigarette butts. There are different types of chemical pollutants out there, so there's lots of different ways you can help, but I want to focus on a couple here. The first one is avoiding pesticides in your home garden and disposing of waste following guidelines in your municipality. This helps to limit the amount of waste in landfills, and it also ensures that waste is properly taken care of. On the microplastic side of things, we can reduce single-use plastics. So these are the items that are only used once before being discarded. So we can switch to alternatives such as a reusable water bottle or coffee mug, and this can help reduce the plastic entering our environment every year. Another thing that we can do is choose products that minimize plastic, such as glass or ceramics. Even heavy-duty plastics that can be reused many times are better than single-use items. Another great thing that we can do to reduce these pollutants in our environment is a shoreline cleanup. So anyone can lead or join a cleanup on our portal. It's a great way to remove harmful litter, microplastics, cigarette butts, plastic bottles, everything like that from entering our waterways. You can also contribute to the Wise Shoreline Cleanup dataset. We encourage everyone to celebrate International Coastal Cleanup Day, also known as ICCD, by participating during the month of September in a cleanup. ICCD is a global movement to celebrate our natural environments and raise awareness about the growing problem of plastic pollution. So this is a really great way to be involved in your community while others around the world are doing the same thing. Now, in order to do this, to participate during ICCD, I want to show you how to lead your own cleanup in 5 easy steps. The first one is to get started on app.ocean.org by creating an account on our portal and registering a cleanup, or logging in if you already have an account. From there, you'll be able to choose a site near you by typing in a location, moving the map, or clicking on the location marker. If you don't see a site near you, don't worry. At the bottom here, you can suggest a new location and our team will review it. The next is to build your team or fly solo. Individual cleanups are also a great way to get involved. You can share the cleanup link on your cleanup page so others can register. You'll also need some supplies, such as bags, reusable gloves, and buckets for your cleanup. Municipalities are a really great resource for this, or ask participants to bring their own. Next, it's time to clean. As you're cleaning, check the amount and types of litter you collect with our digital data card. We have a tip for you too. Reach out to your municipality under the Municipality Resources section of our portal and follow their waste disposal instructions. A lot of municipalities will come clean up the collected litter, so it's really great to connect with them before your event. And that's it. The last thing is to submit your findings. Every piece of litter counts for the ocean, so simply click the submit button at the end to add it to our database. This is the end of our presentation. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Loblaw Companies Limited and True Earth. And I would also like to take a moment to thank everyone for attending. We really appreciate the enthusiasm we're seeing here today, and we encourage you all to stay tuned for our 3rd webinar for more details on leading your own cleanup. We're going to dive into a mini training session and provide you all the steps you need to organize your own event. You can follow us on social media at OceanWise, and it'll provide information on the upcoming webinar as well. We're happy to help support your cleanup as well. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat right now or the question and answer area. But if you think of one later on as well, you can always email us at shoreline@ocean.org.